Hello there, I'm Sconchulus, and today I am joined by my Yu-Gi-Oh! Player friend who is going to react to TEPPEN cards with me and rate whether they are good or bad. You've probably seen something like this, and today we're doing it in a game show sort of format. Go ahead and introduce yourself, my friend.
Why, hello there, I'm the audience insert. If I say anything terrible or objectively wrong about this game, you're the one who did it.
Oh, okay, so we're just gonna deflect everything back to the audience.
Yes.
Especially the Yu-Gi-Oh! Playing half of you all. I also was hoping that you could give a quick description of TEPPEN, having never played or barely seen it as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, if you could describe how TEPPEN functions for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Playing audience.
So, from what I know, TEPPEN is on mobile.
That's right.
Beat your opponent and win, presumably in that order.
Hopefully we're gonna see today if you can identify whether cards are good at doing that. So for the format, we're gonna have 3 groups of 10 cards, starting with older, then modern, then a final group of any sort of cards. But before we get into that, we're gonna have a warm-up of 1 card from each color from the core set. So these are from the first set ever released in TEPPEN Core, and some of them have aged better than others. The first one we have is Fate-Defying Ryu, a 6 MP 3/6 with rush and agility, and attacking will deal X damage to the unit in front of him, where X is the number of actions used in the battle, and attacking effects happen before his attack will connect. So do you think this is a good card, a bad card, or do you think it is niche?
I notice it says both rush and agility. What do those mean?
Rush means that when you play the card down, it's already about to finish its attack, and agility means he attacks twice as quickly as any other card that doesn't have agility.
So I notice he has a cost of 6. How viable would that be?
6 is on the higher end. The lowest cost of a card would be a 3 MP card, and the highest would obviously be 10 MP.
I was also curious about the attacks the unit in front. Does that also hit the player, or strictly on the units?
The attacking effect would only damage a unit. It does say it deals damage to the unit.
I see. I'm assuming niche. It has a pretty high cost, but I could definitely see it, especially with agility, was it?
Agility does make this card a pretty great finisher, and it's a great way to put the clock on your opponent. But the thing that makes this card really devastating, this is a very good card, is that there is no cap on the attacking effect. If you've activated a dozen actions in the game, the attacking effect will do a dozen damage every attack. I would say you're technically somewhat right on him being niche, because he has fallen somewhat out of favor with the action spam sort of red decks being nerfed, but he's still pretty heavily played as a finisher when it's possible to pull it off. Should I give you half a point? I feel like
I don't take pity.
Okay,
and
yeah,
neither does your audience, because I am them.
The next card we have is Brainwash. This one is a little more simple, nothing too weird to get caught up on. It is 7 MP, but what it does is seizes control of an enemy unit.
So, from what I can tell here, it functions as a removal spell, but it seems pretty situational based on what your opponent's playing, so I'd also just guess niche as well.
You want to lock in that answer? You think 7 MP to... Because seize control of it, it will move it over to your side of the field.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to lock in that answer, which is totally wrong. This card, it's literally Snatch Steal. I mean, I thought this one was a layup. This is Snatch Steal.
Sorry, the card's been banned. I haven't had any ability to use it, so I don't know about that one.
So that one you also got wrong. That card is not niche at all. Next, Disarm, the green card for core. Disarm will inflict seal on an enemy unit, and the way seal works, it basically negates the card. It removes any text, basically, that is on the card. It becomes a vanilla card.
I see. So how exactly do action cards work?
So when you activate an action card, the game will freeze for up to 10 seconds for your opponent to decide if they do anything, and they get 2 MP to respond with any of action cards of their own. Since this is a 2 MP action, you could play it basically for free in action phase.
You mentioned earlier, how does card advantage work? So when do you draw?
I did not mention that. It hasn't. So it was going to come up eventually. Whenever you play a card, you will immediately draw another card.
I
So
see.
your hand will always have 5 cards.
Well, I'm assuming it's playable then if it's a, essentially just a free, action.
But this is from the very first set in the game. Do you think this is a good, a bad, or a niche card?
I would still say good, especially given the cost.
Yes. Yes, you finally got one on the board. That's your first one that you definitely got right. This card is as good as Infinite Impermanence, pretty much. Almost any green deck starts with 3 copies of Disarm, 3 copies of Wall Jump, which is shield to basically win combat, and then 1 evasive action, which resets the stats on a card. So basically options for any situation, kind of like you would start with hand traps in a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. And next we have Selfish Predation. This is the black card. For 1 MP, you can destroy 1 friendly black unit, then give your hero 4 life.
At least when it comes to games that I've played that mainly rely on you reducing your opponent's life total to 0, you don't necessarily care that much about life total, unless there's potentially something that triggers off of it, or certain units that trigger off of it. So
that's definitely true in most cases, yes.
I would go for niche, because you'd have to have the correct setup for it, or do black
I would
units
say
usually.
one question I would have is, if this card were to heal you more, would it make a difference? If this card were instead, if it were give your hero 7 life. This is an old card. If there were a newer card that was exactly the same, 1 MP, destroy 1 black unit, heal 7 life to your hero, with a starting life of 30.
I don't believe the life total would necessarily matter.
Okay.
More so just its ability to actually trigger any on death, or...
You are on the right track. There are death effects that you can use this to trigger. The important thing is actually the difference in the life total. This is the nerfed version of this card. Initially, this card did heal you for 7 life, and it was massively played. With a starting life total of 30, potentially adding 21, practically doubling your life total, made black the control color. So if you weren't significantly far ahead of your opponent, they could just activate a single Selfish Predation at the end of the game, and you would lose in time. Basically, every game of TEPPEN has the potential to go into time rules, and Selfish Predation was an amazing card for that. But since we are talking about the nerfed version, this card, I will give you half a point on this one. This one is not quite as heavily played now. Since you were right about the reason this card would be played now would be you can use this to stop a Brainwashed or a Disarm from removing the card.
How long do games usually last?
You start with a 5-minute timer and it counts down.
I see.
Games can usually end in 2 minutes, or it will more likely go to time if it's not a faster game.
I see, so life gain gives you a better chance to actually play a control deck.
If you have any life gain, then the game has the potential to go down to time. So now we're moving on to some of the classic older cards. This is a red card with a bunch of text on it. Wicked Flames of Hatred. Select 1 enemy unit. Upon resolution, the player who activated this effect returns all cards in their hand and draws 5 cards. After drawing these 5 new cards, it deals damage equal to the number of units shuffled back into the deck to the targeted card.
I see.
There's no PSCT here, so for 4 MP, is this a good, bad, or a niche card?
I see, so it says on resolution, so the actual shuffling back needs to occur first before it can actually deal the damage. Is there any way to interrupt that, or...?
It's very strange that it says that. I really don't feel like it needs to say upon resolution, just the way that TEPPEN card effects work. That level of detail isn't necessary. It would happen upon resolution, because that's the only time an effect really could trigger from an action card.
I think I can see the appeal, because you are able to resculpt your hand while potentially removing an enemy unit, but it seems too situational, in my opinion, so I'd probably say it's bad.
This card is terrible. The main thing that holds this card back is the cost. I thought I would be able to get you with the draw 5, just have you frothing at the mouth as a Yu-Gi-Oh player over...
But you're returning your AEX pocket as well, it looks like.
True, yeah, no, there's no way that this card wouldn't be a minus, even as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I don't think. You're ahead half a point on the scale. On the... Is it a scale?
Yes.
You correctly identified 1 very bad draw card. Now we have a 1 MP purple Foresight. Draw 1 card and put it in the EX pocket.
So you said that when responding to your opponent's actions, you're given up to 2?
You do get 2 blue MP that you can use. So if you use this on the first response, you would still have 1 more.
For this, I'd probably say it's good because it's a free cast in response to your opponent's action.
I would say that this card is niche. It's a good card in decks that want to build memory count, which is the number of actions used. But in most decks, you don't really need foresight, and you would generally rather have a card immediately on hand that you'll be able to use in response. You don't want to draw into something that you'll have to start action phase for yourself quite as much in most situations. But in some decks, this is a very good card. I almost want to give you half a point because it's an okay card, but...
I would suggest 0 because I deserve it. Your audience doesn't, and as I am an audience surrogate, they do not deserve it.
Would the audience... Yeah, I guess they would probably tell me this is not a bad card, so I guess there will not be a point awarded. Next we have a 10 MP boss monster legendary card. I never explained this earlier, but if a card has this white and blue border at the bottom, then it's a legendary card, which means you get 1 copy in your deck. You can have as many legendaries as you want in your deck.
I see. So it's much like Rush Duels, a game we are both presumably very fond of.
Rush Duels are the... Why did you bring this on? Why did you bring this up? We're not going to talk about...
For the content, presumably.
We're not going to make enemies of the Sevens fandom. Or we're not going to make friends of the Sevens hatedom either. So we're just going to talk about because the Devil May Cry community is totally neutral on Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, I imagine. It's not like it's the DMC Devil May Cry of the Yu-Gi-Oh! It's such a dark and edgy show. But V the Mysterious One, this unit cannot attack for 10 MP, and Resonate is whenever you activate an action, this effect will activate. He will place a familiar, so we'll show those. Familiar Griffin is a 2/5 with flight that will deal 2 damage when resonating and removes itself on death. All of the summons do that. The Familiar Shadow, Resonate, gain +1/+1, and the biggest summon, the Familiar Nightmare, has slow, spill over, indestructible, and nullified damage, and after 1 attack will remove itself from the game. It has 13/13 stats, which I think might be the biggest number printed just straight up on any card in the game. So that's probably a lot to take in, but that is the 10 MP cost of V the Mysterious One.
Do you get to choose which one it summons, or does it just summon one at random?
It is a 1 in 3 every time.
I see. But it happens every time you cast an action, right?
Every action you use will summon 1 of the 3 at random.
I see.
And V himself does not attack, he stays in place.
It seems like a lot for a cost of 10, but...
10 cost is the most anything can possibly be.
He is also occupying his zone. Is there a reason why the familiars have a cost? Are you allowed to just play them separately?
So the cost of these cards could affect how you remove them. There are a lot of good ways to remove 5 cost and lower cards, but there is no good way to remove a 10 cost card. Especially one that also has indestructible...
Is there a way to negate your own unit's effect?
There are some cards that can negate unit effects. I would say they're limited to green. I think green is the only color that has that. And this is a purple card. A purple 10 cost card. Dual color does exist in TEPPEN, but you are limited to a total MP of 5. You can play cards with a higher MP cost than that, but you can't cast them from your hand.
I see. That makes sense. So you'd have to be dedicated to playing a purple deck in order to cast this?
Yes, that's correct.
I'd say as a one of, it seems like an alright game ender, so I'd probably put under good.
Okay, you are right. I would say that this card is good for a number of reasons. You are right in one of the top meta decks of all time, known as Zero Exodia. One of the cards that you would play as you stall to reach Memory 15 in the Zero Exodia deck is V. He's one of the only units you would play in that deck. But the most famous use of this card is in black-purple. You would send him to the graveyard as your only unit, and summon him. You would use 0 Tenkuha to give +2 attack and combo to the familiar Nightmare, so it would swing for
twice?
15 damage twice, which is exact lethal at full health. That's what the card is most known for. So next we have Jeddah High Noble, who has Decimate, Explore, 2 words we don't know. Decimate means when you kill something in battle. Common effect in Yu-Gi-Oh! Explore for Salvation of Souls. So he will add this card from outside of the deck to your hand, and Salvation of Souls is select one friendly unit. All units other than the selected unit become 2/2. For each unit change, the selected friendly unit gains +1/+1. And Jeddah is a 7 MP 3/6.
It seems pretty good in the fact that if your attack connects, you're able to get that.
Yeah, it's a huge pop-off.
Get that action, and that action seems like it also makes whatever it's going to hit next a 2/2, so it's able to finish it off.
It does set itself up, potentially, yeah.
Yep. I'm just not entirely sure about the cost, so I'm leaning more towards niche. You also need to win the combat phase as well, so potentially your opponent can try to do something to stop that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is... I'll totally give it to... This card is very, very bad. The main problem is that the card is never guaranteed. The keyword Decimate on cards like this is very hit or miss, and this is one that hugely misses. Next, Merciless Destroyer Vial. This card talks about the Ascended effect. Ascended is a tribute summon. The card has to have the Ascended ability, but if it has it, you can tribute summon it over any card on the field, and Vial has, when played, gain +1/+1 for each friendly black unit which has had the Ascended status this battle.
So what draws my eyes is the flavor text where he calls somebody a wimp.
I'm sick of this wimp. X is cool though. I never considered that you could extract a lot of meta knowledge from the flavor text on a lot of these. So I think that will definitely help inform your decision on this one.
I'm not sure how common putting something in the sentence is. I'm assuming it definitely comes with a much higher cost as well too.
There are some decks that are really, really good at ascending. One of the most popular black decks is Raging Demon, and the Raging Demon hero art activates an ascended unit's ascension, and it destroys the unit in front of it, non-targeting. So that's a super popular ability. Anytime there are ascended units in the game, it allows Raging Demon to be a viable hero art, and there's usually a lot of ascended abilities in that deck. So ascended is pretty common.
I'm assuming it'd be pretty good then if there's a specific deck built around it. It definitely has potential for 3 to pump itself up. But
It is 3 MP, and there is no cap on the potential for the buff.
Mm-hmm.
So you think it's a good card?
Yep, I'm guessing good.
This card is horrible. Which is... I'm surprised that I was able to get you with the multiple dabs there, I guess, on what is just 2 of the worst cards in a row that you thought were both pretty decent. No, you got the last one right. You don't want to wait so long to get what is just a beat stick. This card needs like 1 effect on it to do anything at all. It needs like Heavy Pierce so it can be a win.
I see. When you said tribute, I probably should have caught on to something.
Yeah, tributing... The main problem is that it takes a lot of investment. You have to play something, then tribute, then tribute, then tribute, then tribute, then tribute, then you can play Vial.
Also, as the audience surrogate, the multiple dabs were your fault. All of you.
It's true, they did do that.
Cringe, by the way.
So next we have the black card, Dalamadur. Sorry, Monster Hunter fans, for my pronunciations, but this is a 7 MP, 120 stat line with growth 20. When you play a unit down after you have a growth effect on the field, the MP of the unit you play will increase the growth meter on the growth unit. So you have to play 20 MP of units to trigger Dalamadur's effect.
I see, which is to destroy all enemy units.
Destroy all enemy units, with no restriction on the destruction.
I see, so he's definitely more of a grower than a shower.
To say the least, my man. He's like 20 inches of growing to do. It takes a long time.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's pretty bad, mainly just because of the 7 cost, the fact that you need to cast 20 in terms of...
The most MP that you can have stored at a time is 10, and you only have 3 lanes to play units into. So this is not an easy card to trigger using its growth effect.
That makes sense. I wonder how easy it would be with actions, but even then, I think the cost is too steep, regardless of how good the effect is, so I'm assuming this card is bad?
It has a very iconic and classic niche. This is a total classic jank meme card, because you would play this in a 2-color deck that would summon it and repeatedly have it summon itself whenever it dies, and you would use your hero art, which levels up any unit to trigger the destroy effect at any time you want.
Oh, I see, so it goes with the specific hero art.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely did not give you there that you would have probably knocked out of the bag if you knew that there was a way to break this card. But this is very breakable in that hero art. So next we have Alfred Ashcorp, 3 MP 1/7, death, destroy a random unit with an MP cost of 3 or less.
So the color is black, correct?
The color is black. Almost any destroy effect for destroying your opponent's cards will be a black card.
Well, since earlier you described black as more of stall tactics, the fact that it has 7 endurance, or what would you call that?
That's HP.
7 HP, I'd probably say would be a good card. It just gives stall potential and potential removal. Outside of, I guess, what it destroys being random.
It destroys a random 3 MP or lower card, and 3 MP cards are the lowest possible cost for a card.
Oh, I see. So it, depending on what state it's in, it might not necessarily serve as good removal.
Yeah, in some decks, this card will be... the removal effect will not matter at all. That's just the nature of playing cards like this.
I see.
Kind of investing in winning some matchups, in a way.
I guess you sold me on it. It sounds like it's pretty niche since the actual card you get to remove is random as well.
Don't let me influence you. Do you think this is a good niche or a bad card?
Probably closer to niche in my opinion.
This
removal sounds good, but actually, I guess not being able to choose what removes.
There are definitely pros and cons to this card, but this was a game warping card. At first, this card was good, but when they released one of the final heroes in the game, Oichi, she's able to summon an entire field of 3 or 4 MP units from the graveyard. She basically made 3 MP units unplayable for the entire meta, which was oppressive and really frustrating for that season.
I see, that makes sense. So
this is a meta warping card.
It's very easy to recur. Is that specifically for black because of that hero?
Black is definitely the one hero art that has graveyard recursion. A couple other hero arts, green can potentially make a card revive itself immediately, but that's mostly a black exclusive effect.
I see.
Next we have a red card. We have Trump card for 3 MP. Remove your entire deck from the game to gain 7 MP. This is a super flashy card. I think that the risk reward is pretty obvious with this one.
Indeed, obviously bad. I will assume that it is bad, and nothing that can be said in the future will impact this decision.
Okay. That's a very confident guess. This card is totally good. I mean, look how heckin' sick this card is. Would they really make something this exciting and explosive and not have it be powerful? I should also say this is the nerfed version of the card, where it was still very playable. This card on release was 1 MP to gain 7 MP. It doesn't matter if you have any other plays if you win the game on your next play, so this card ends up being very good at winning the game.
Damn, as they always say, hindsight is 20/20, and hindsight's 20/20 as well.
Did you try at all to guess on that one, or you were like, wow, this card it could literally go either way?
I thought it was like a game ender, but I wasn't sure like how good 5 cards in hand would be.
It's just, I just liked your confidence. I thought that you were like totally lying.
I know. That's so I could pass off as a joke, a bit of a meme, because
it was very mixed messages.
Nothing in the future.
So now your future is here to haunt you. We have hope for the future, which is to hope that you turn your score around. Give all friendly units +1/+1, and memory 4, which means you've used 4 actions before this of any kind. Additionally, give all units in your hand an EX pocket +1/+1 for 4 MP.
So memory is just any card, right?
Memory is any card. It's permanent. If you've used 4 actions, this card has both effects.
Oh, so it specifically has to be actions.
Yeah, it can't be a unit. Units don't increase memory count. It's like Striker. Every Striker card has memory 3.
No, I mean, I know what memory is. I just think you're cringe.
Well, yeah, mentioning that deck is... I shouldn't have mentioned him.
That was outside. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm gonna break some character. But first things first, your mom.
What's the name of the... I'm about to Kagari engage your ass. I'm about to Metaverse searching Mystic Mine.
I forgot it's a visual joke. It doesn't really work. Anyways, I'm assuming... I'm not sure how good a +1/+1 would be a majority of the time. So, I'll just assume it's bad.
Okay, that is a pretty good assumption. This card stinks. Mainly because it just costs too much, it's too generic. It's kind of interesting that it's in your hand, but you are totally right. This card is famously one of the worst legendaries, especially for green. So you're now at 5.5 to 6 points, which I don't think is accurate.
I didn't realize that it was a legendary on top of that.
Yeah, that card is a very disappointing legendary because it has a really cool Art of X, all close encounters of the third kind up in there. This card is very clearly a legendary. It's hard to mistake it for anything else. We have Natural Cycle for 6 MP. Each player returns all cards in their hand, EX pocket, and graveyard to their respective decks, then draw a new hand. If the total number of cards returned to the deck in this way is more than 25, all units in the deck of the player who activated this effect, so just you, gain +1/+1.
The main thing is that, sure, it shuffles everything back into the deck. The main thing is, it's costing you 6 to do this. Suppose that you could probably use it if you're behind, but I'd assume it's quite bad because of the cost associated, as well as the setup for the additional bonus.
Yeah, if you're behind and you use this card, it's having no effect on the field, so that would not be a very good play.
Yep. So I'll just consider it bad.
This card is incredible. This is one... I can't believe you would look at this art and think that this is a bad card. Like, this was supposed to be a layup. This card has 3 paragraphs of text. I don't know what more you needed to see as a Yu-Gi-Oh player to know that this enables broken things. It's only around in Unlimited now, and it is probably the strongest deck in Unlimited, is any deck with this card.
Dang, sounds like we haven't been playing much TEPPEN to know that. Unlimited, specifically, since that's the format it's legal in.
Way to deflect, bro. You're just being... a silly Simpson.
I'm not a simp.
Simp.
Oh my god, no. No, I'm not.
So next we have the Simp Owl. We've moved into modern cards, by the way. We are at modern era. This card has Flight, Memory 4. It will place the killing machine Nehu onto the field. And at Memory 7, it gives all units +1/+2. Nehu has Resonate. Give all friendly machine units +1 attack, and when he's placed on the field, he gives all enemy units slow temporarily. So for 8 MP, is this a good or a bad card in modern TEPPEN?
What's Flight mean? I'm assuming it's like flying.
Flight like in Magic, bro. Have you ever played... Is there a Yu-Gi-Oh card with Flight? I don't think there is. But it means that it can't be blocked. The attack will go over anything that doesn't have anti-air or flight as well.
Okay, I was just making sure because it could have been anything. Actually, when you think about it, it's just a word, really. I think a lot of the things that we've been, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the things we've been reading here are just words. At the end of the day,
a lot of words on this one.
Dang, you were telling me about how words are good.
Yeah, if a card's got words, it might be good.
Yeah, it might be.
But that's not... I'm not going to tell you whether it is.
So the question is Killing Machine Lectu a good card?
I can't believe you got the pronunciation for this card correct. I'm not going to tell you. You have to guess. Were you trying to psych me out?
I know the audience was.
Oh, okay.
I'll say it's good. My bad, I did not realize that those effects needed memory. I'm not sure how common actions are in purple, so I'm just gonna guess niche.
Okay, this one I would say is niche. It was in the strongest deck in the game for a period, so I guess if you said good, you would have been very right too. You have an ability that can bounce it back to the hand, so if you just repeatedly play the first bird and get 2 birds every time, you have an infinite amount of just these horrible owls continuing to spill onto the field and get stronger. That's already bad, but the reason I say this is niche is that they didn't need to nerf this one for it to stop seeing played. They nerfed the card that was played with it, the other memory card, because Memory 7 on its own for this one card is just too much of an investment for a single payoff. Next we have Deicital Schemer Wesker, who has the Revenge effect to gain +1/+2. The way Revenge works, when a unit dies, it goes back into your deck with its MP cost halved, rounded up, and when you draw it again, it will have 4 MP for this one instead.
Does it stack, so...
You can only get Revenge a single time, and then it will go to Graveyard. And then his when played effect is turn the unit in front into Infected. I forgot to save that one, but Infected is a vanilla 2/3 with Revenge, and Decimate, destroy 1 random enemy unit with an MP cost of 5 or less.
How common is it to cycle through your entire deck? Because I do notice he's a legendary, so you'd have to draw into the same copy.
It does happen surprisingly often, depending on the decks that people play.
I'm assuming it's good because it functions as a removal, changing the unit in front of it into Infected, and also sets it up for its destruction effect once it destroys it by battle. I suppose it is on the condition it destroys it by battle, but I will assume good. After all, according to the flavor text, there's only room for one god in this world.
For one god in this world.
And it's me.
I'm Wesker, baby.
But the type of person with the confidence to say that is Wesker from Resident Evil.
Wesker from Resident Evil is a very good card. The reason he's such a good removal spell is that there's absolutely nothing that he doesn't work on. He removes everything. And there's no counterplay to it of any kind. So now we have the 3 MP Impertinent Wench. Wretch. You're an impertinent wretch.
Yes.
Negate an action card with an MP cost of 2 or less. If friendly units have leveled up 5 or more times, negate an action with an MP cost of 3 or less instead. Then explore for Extraction. An Extraction is 1 MP, select a unit, then deal 2 damage to every other unit, and give that much HP to the unit you selected.
So if you're using it to counter another action, it would have a cost of essentially 1, given the 2
yes,
free
that's
MP.
correct. When you use this in response, the only time you can use it is in response, it would be 1 MP.
Yep. But if you're using it straight out the gate, it will still cost 3.
Well, you can't use it... You can't activate it on its own. You can only activate it to negate something.
Oh, I didn't realize negate an action card. My apologies. I misread that as sealing another unit.
Oh, yeah, that would be a big difference. Being able to just use it whenever you want would be a lot different than how it does work.
I'm gonna guess that's pretty good since it's gonna be 1. Actually, my bad. Allow me to take that back. I'm not sure how many power cards do fall in the category of 2 or less, so I'm going to guess niche. I'm not sure if the level up thing necessarily comes into play.
So I would say this was a bit of a bait. This was kind of a trick question. The effect to negate a 3 MP or less card for 3 MP is very good. There's a card from Core that's 3 MP negate 3 or less. And this card is massively worse than that in every way, with a huge cost to be that good. So this card is terrible, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the point because you kind of identified how the card works, and you could tell the second effect didn't really matter.
We take those. I believe that's something that one of my friends who played Super Smash Bros. Competitively and is now He used to play Super Smash Bros.
Yeah,
competitively.
we don't talk about Smash players. That's crossing too many lines.
Ain't that right?
Vague, controversial statement. Next we have the green 4MP card, Stay Close, which will give one friendly green unit with an MP cost of 5 or less. While on the field, all action cards effects that affect this unit become gain +1/+1 for 5 seconds. Go ahead and parse that one real quick. I'm not going to help you read this one. This is a test of pure card text, of difficult card interpolation.
I'm assuming that it makes it so that every action card that would target it changes the effect to gain +1/+1 for the next 5 seconds.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that it'd be pretty good as a response to some sort of removal spell, because it would change it from actually removing the card or affecting in some way to just a standard buff. And I'm assuming you're using this more as a reaction, so it's going to cost 2 instead of the 4.
Yes, that was... You actually read a very difficult card to comprehend exactly how it works, which shows how much Yu-Gi-Oh! Will teach you how to read bad cards.
Oh no, that's Magic.
Magic works more like this?
Yes. I guess the main thing is that... Actually, no, it's not anything that targets it. It's anything that affects it.
Anything that affects it.
So if it's a board wipe, it's also just gonna change it to +1/+1. So yes, I'm still...
This is...
under impression. It's quite good.
Yeah, this is so overtuned. It should not work the way it does. You can have 5 things in a chain targeting a card and you'll get a +5 off of it. This card counters everything. One of the first cards we looked at, Brainwashed, a staple card, was massively nerfed the entire time this card existed because this is such a busted card by nature. It's one of the strongest cards ever. You nailed it on that one. Almost got you, but that card is beyond broken.
Much like how I nailed your mother.
Next we have Stabilizer, which for 2 MP in black will give one friendly black unit with an MP cost of 4 or less indestructible for 13 seconds. And that effect is as it sounds. It means it cannot be destroyed by card effects. It can still lose combat. If its health goes down to 0, it dies.
Oh, I see. So indestructible means it could still die by combat. That's a lot worse than I was assuming.
Yeah, like a card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Could still be destroyed by battle if it cannot be destroyed. Like an effect in Yu-Gi-Oh!
I see, so it's not like indestructible like in my favorite game, Magic the Gathering.
I don't know anything about that game.
In which it also protects...
It doesn't have any funny voiced anime boys. Maybe it does, I shouldn't write it off. But do you think this card's good?
It's a free cast in response to something. I'm just not entirely sure how often it comes up, plus how often people spend removal on 4-cost cards. But...
I will tell you, the only color that has removal in the form of destruction is other black deck.
I see, so it sounds very format dependent, depending on what's being played, so I'm assuming niche?
Okay. I will give you the point because this card is niche, but it is not at all related to the format or responding to destroys in any way. The reason this card is used somewhat by players who like to meme it up is to allow your own cards to survive their destruction effects. There's a hero art that gives +4/+4 and destroy the unit after attacking to a card, and with this it's just a permanent huge buff to make anything into like a boss monster. Next we have Ruin's Avatar, Nefgar Mads. Sorry, Monster Hunter fans. This card has Flight, Shield, which protects it from any damage one time, and Faith. The way Faith works, when a unit dies, it will give +1/+1 to a random card in your hand with Faith. When played, this guy gives one random unit +2/+2 in your hand, and after taking damage and surviving, gives all enemy units one attack.
I'm not sure how good cards with Faith are. It says when taking damage, so if your opponent damages this card?
Yeah, that would be when it triggers.
I'm assuming the third effect doesn't come up as often, because if you would need to play it, you'd probably put it in something that would
The third
probably just
effect is
kill it on
entirely a
attack.
negative effect.
Yeah, but you can mitigate by placing in front of something
since
that's strong enough to just destroy
it won't take very much damage since it is a flight unit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it seems like it's mainly the on-summon effect that we're more looking at. Well, I guess flight also comes into play.
Yeah, it has a huge negative effect. This card just has a bunch of effects, so it's really hard to tell where to start with this one.
I'd say if played correctly, it's probably still pretty niche. But I'm not familiar with how most Faith decks work, so I'll go with niche.
This card is awful. This card has so many effects that are just pointing in different directions that don't really amount to anything. Faith itself is one of the most broken mechanics ever in the game, but I thought it would be interesting to put a bad Faith card, so that card is horrible.
Speaking of horrible, the audience surrogate, me.
Yeah, audience, get it together.
According to the Scoon, I believe his name is. Scronchulus, specifically.
Please don't say these things.
Damn, I can't believe you hate me. Us.
I didn't bring you up this. I didn't raise you all this way. So next we have Gertrude, who when attacking will gain -1/-1, and when its attack becomes 0 for the first time, it will deal 5 damage to a random unit. Immolate, it's like a reverse tribute summon. If this card has 4 or less HP, you can play any card over it to immolate, which will give this effect to that unit. So its immolate effect is +1 attack, and attacking deal 5 damage to 1 random enemy unit.
Doesn't necessarily seem like the first effect would come up that often since it's 2 separate attacks need to connect, but I suppose if it has an HP of 7, I'm not sure how long it would stick around. The immolate effect seems like it might be pretty good if you're able to put it on something that can attack twice, or attack on summon, so I'm guessing
the immolate effect actually will go away after the first attack, so you only get it a single time.
Oh, I see. So if it attacks twice, it'll only happen on the first.
Yeah, you only get the 5 damage. You don't get 10 damage. And I should say, if potentially, for whatever reason, when this card hits the field, it's already at 0 attack, it will trigger right away.
I'm assuming it's pretty good as removal, since it deals damage to something on summon, as well as passing on the effects to whatever you summon next, and 3 seems like an acceptable cost for it.
Yeah, this card is amazing. For 3 MP, doing 5 damage when played is definitely over curve, and the flexibility that comes with the immolate makes this card kind of the cornerstone of the deck it's played in. Next we have one of the newest green cards, Felicia, is a quest. Quest will trigger whenever you do something, and you get a certain payoff for it. So the quest for this card is playing a unit card from your EX pocket. Its first level, when you activate its quest, will add a green unit with an MP cost of 4 or less in your deck to your EX, and both Felicia and the unit added get +1/+2, and the second time you fulfill her quest, she will give all units on the field +1/+2.
So what really draws my eye here are the fact that it's from the set Super Spooky Village, which is a very funny name. Tits as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how easy it is to get something in an EX pocket though, so I'm going to guess niche on this one.
I'll tell you, in the set they did release a lot of cards that can set up your EX pocket.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, my bad. I thought I misread. So 2 and 3 are separate effects. So the 3 is a group buff on the second time you play something from the EX pocket.
So technically, you only need to set up the first play from EX pocket because she sets up the second one.
I see. Guess niche. I'm not sure how good the setups for EX pockets are.
So it is a considerable setup. You do have to pay at least 11 MP, which is her, a 3 MP unit, and another 3 MP unit. But just getting those 3 levels is one of the most broken payoffs that you can get. She can buff up anything. She can buff up legendary cards. She gives you really rapid access to whatever it is you're building around. And just the pure numbers that she pumps out on board are pretty game meta-defining right now. This is one of the decks to beat is any deck that is abusing Felicia in the current game. Next, we have X. My boyfriend. I'll edit that out for sure.
I bet your audience is jealous.
Yeah, I can't. They deserve him as well. While on the field, reduce damage taken by all friendly machine units of 3 or less to 1. That does include himself. And unleash 15, which means when your health as the hero is at 15 or less, he will gain this effect, which is to give all friendly machine units, including himself, +2 attack and to explore for arm parts. Arm parts you can only get from this card will give one friendly machine unit +3 attack and spillover. He's losing his buster. He's overcoming struggle. He's saving the day. He's about to kill a god.
What was Unleash again?
Unleash is related to your hero's health. So you have to be at you have to be below 4,000 life points.
I see, you have to be 15 or below.
Yes.
It's definitely a comeback card. I suppose for this, I'll just guess good, both for the damage reduction and the fact that it both buffs up your units, as well as giving you a action that gives another unit spillover.
So I will say, the action he gives you is insane. For 1 MP, +3 attack is really crazy. His effect to protect everything else is okay to bad. His stats are bad. His unleash is a little too low. He's too expensive. This card is terrible. It's mostly the deck he's in. This card sucks, and it's a huge bummer because the art is absolutely stunning.
That makes sense.
So the last modern card we have is Chun-Li. She has 3 MP. She's a 2/2 with agility and coordination, which means you have to have at least 2 other units on the field for her to gain this effect. Coordination, she will gain combo, meaning her attack will always trigger twice. And if she is ascended, if she's tribute summoned, she will gain +3 HP and a shield.
Oh, the card that tributes over it will gain +3 HP and a shield.
Chun-Li will gain +3, so she'll become 2/5 with
Oh,
a shield.
wait, I see you ascended over something else. I got
You're
it.
thinking of Immolate.
From my very limited knowledge, being an avid watcher of your videos, having watched all of them, I have heard the name Chun-Li, so I'm just gonna guess that's good.
Dude, I was gonna say, I know you mentioned the last video you ever saw was the Storm Owl video. This card was in that video and was busted in that video, but this is the nerfed version of that card. So, I'm gonna give you that. You thought you had an easy out, the easiest one in the video, you thought you had it. This is the nerfed version. I'm asking you how good is the nerfed version. I'll tell you what the nerfs were. The nerf was she went from coordination 1 to 2, and she lost 1 attack point.
I definitely wouldn't say bad. I'm still hovering between good and niche. So, I brought a coin. I didn't bring a coin.
Bro, you gotta decide.
Heads or tails?
Bro, you have so much context here. Decide if it's good or bad. Give me reasoning. You'll get 0 points if you give me no reasoning.
I'd say it's still good.
They slaughtered this card. They nerfed it hard. Is it still good or not?
I would say it's still good because agility means it gets an attack on summon, right?
Agility means it attacks twice as fast. Combo means when it's attacking, it attacks twice.
Oh, I see. So it'll, at least on first attack, it'll deal 4 before, in theory, the enemy unit has an opportunity to attack it.
Always deals 4 at the very least when it's attacking. If you buff it up more, it can do 6 every attack cycle. The fact that it's moving like that's 5 attacks to end the game if it's doing 6 in an attack cycle. That's 25 seconds later, the game is over.
And plus what I've seen about a lot of green cards, they do seem to buff other cards.
Green
so I would say
have a lot of potential to buff cards. We might have looked at green cards that could be used with this, but I won't say which ones.
I'd assume it's still good.
Okay, so this card is good as an option in... This card is niche. It's only really used with Devil Breaker and with the Felicia card that we looked at just before. It's only used with Felicia, and it's only used with a hero art that gives it +4 attack and spillover, which makes the agility combo into a board wipe. So when it was initially nerfed, this card fell out of play completely, and then when they released Felicia, she returned to play. So outside of Felicia and Devil Breaker, she does not cut it anymore.
I see.
Alright, so now we have 10 more cards. These are some of the ones that I was the most interested in showing you. Starting off here, we have Victory's Whip Franziska, You Foolish Fool. When placed on the field, gain any damage dealt to this unit is dealt to the enemy hero, effective for 3 attacks. And she has attacking, destroy one random enemy unit with 1 or less attack. She's an 8 MP 3/2.
I'd say for the cost, it'd be pretty bad for a cost of 8. On top of that, its removal seems pretty selective. It is a legendary, which means that
It's a legendary,
the
you get 1
Capcom
copy.
thinks that it's so good you should only play 1 copy. But I'm
It
under
does
the
have the
impression...
Capcom seal of approval. Buddy, this card is Magic Cylinder. You really gonna write off?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
legendary
In a
face
game
down?
with time...
Magic Cylinder.
Yes, that's what I said, in a game with time. It most definitely would improve it. So I'm gonna say it's niche then.
Okay. This card is super good. I guess it could be argued that it's niche, but people hated this card while it was around because it makes you play the game in a way that you never have to play it ever.
I see. So you can't just make a big beater and they'll just put a card in front of it.
Yeah, you instantly lose if you try to do that. So the card is pretty gimmicky. I guess I could arguably give it to you but it's like a really good gimmick, and it's so powerful that it borders on not gimmick tier. So I'm only gonna give you half a point because I gave you half a point earlier. So we're gonna even out the half a point that you got.
Make it whole. I see.
Which just makes the count even more off. We'll see what it actually is in post, but you're at like 12-11 right now. So let's see if you end with a positive or negative score. Next we have Monsters Virus. Give your purple element hero immune to damage 30 seconds and immune to life sacrifice effects 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, you lose. Anything goes. I'm pulling out the big guns. These are my flashiest cards.
This is most definitely a Day of Nightmares, the name of the set it came out in.
Yeah, people were spooked.
I mean, at the very least, if you get down to the wire where it's only 30 seconds, it proves that you just won't lose any more life.
But you might still lose if they add time to the clock. I don't know.
They could add time to the clock?
That's not real. I hope one day. Gung-Ho, let me add time. Let me make my opponent wait longer. It's by Crapco.
I'd say niche. I could definitely see the appeal of just not losing, but if you're playing something that makes it so you're not losing, that could replace the Slava card that can actually improve your chances of just winning the game.
Yeah, you're basically right. This card is pretty niche, but the amount of time it gives you is a lot. But in most decks, you're not going to play this because it's just way too risky. But in aggro decks, in 2-color aggro decks that were already playing super close to the belt, there used to be a Solemn Judgment card in this game, but they nerfed it so it's not quite Solemn Judgment anymore. You wouldn't have to sacrifice with that card if you had Monstrous Virus up. You were already playing super risky. It was a natural include in. Next we have Imprisoned Princess, 2 MP black card. When played, explore for cruelty. If this unit's explore count is 8 or higher. I can't believe it says if this unit. This is an action card. But if this unit's explore count is 8 or higher, give all friendly black units +3/+3. And your hero gains +7 life. I think I forgot to save Cruelty, but it gives +2/+2 to a unit if an enemy unit has 4 or less HP.
What's the cost on Cruelty?
Cruelty, I think, is a 2 MP.
I see. I wonder how easy it is to trigger Explore effects. The payoff does seem pretty nice, though, especially since you said life is pretty important. And for a cost of 2... I'd say it's probably niche, since you'd have to be playing a deck built around it, but...
Yeah, you're right. You do have to build around this deck. You have to completely commit to doing basically nothing except for exploring. Black does not have the explore cards necessary. You have to play red-black, and the only way you're going to have any units on field is if you send them from deck to graveyard, you mill them, the specific 3 units you want set up, you get all 8 explorers, you revive all 3 units at once. Then you activate this and you have that 1 win con. That will probably win you the game, but it takes like so long and it's so choreographed, as well as doing absolutely nothing else, that it's a pretty bad niche, but it is definitely niche. Next, we have a card that I think is somewhat familiar to a number of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. We have Incense of Doom. This card will send all cards in your opponent's EX pocket to their graveyard. And the way the EX pocket works, it covers every possibility that they would need to have something added to the hand. If a card is returned from the field to the hand, it goes to the EX pocket. If you draw a card, if you add a card from anywhere.
I can definitely see it being set up with other cards. As you said, cards are bounced on the field, do return to the EX pocket, so it acts as removal in that sense. I'm not sure how often the EX pocket gets used. How many of the mechanics that enable it are actually in use?
It's not in every deck, but a lot of decks do search cards, or at the very least explore for cards. So it will be relevant in a lot more matchups than it won't be.
But it also changes a bounce into it combos with a bounce to become a removal spell. And for one, I'm under the impression it's good.
I would say that this card never saw any play at all in standard format. It is literally Ash Blossom, Super Ash Blossom, but it was never just relevant enough against the meta decks. However, in the alternative formats in TEPPEN, which there is one of every week, there's an EXGP where they give you cards on field or in the EX pocket. This card ruins those by turning them into a vanilla format where everything is the same as normal, and you have to play against black players who are totally sweating it out. This is a sweat card in the EXGP, so it's very niche. So you are right, this card is niche.
Oh no, I said good.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, this card is not very good, but it is funny.
I was wondering if you could bounce something back. I'm not sure.
No, black does not bounce cards at all back to hand.
I see.
Next we have the 7 MP black card, 4/7, Bit. Bit has Rush and Resonate, deal 1 damage to the enemy hero. Very simple, not a lot of text on this one.
I mean, it burns every time you use an action? For 7, though, 4 damage. It does have a large booty, ass, even.
It does, yeah, you could definitely say that. It has an okay stat line. It has a good attack stat, has an okay body. Definitely not great stats for 7.
I'm not sure how good it would be for... what color is it? Red, right?
This is for red.
I wonder if there was potentially a burn deck that would play it, so I'll go with niche for this one.
Okay, yeah, you're dead on. This card is played in the strongest burn deck of all time, and it would not be played for the 1 damage. The deck would buff up and increase the amount that the 1 damage would do, and you would only play this card when it was doing at least 6 damage on every Resonate. And at that point, it's unrespondable. Resonate cannot be interacted with.
Does it still resolve even if the card leaves the field? So, if you're spawned by removing the... or does Resonance happen as soon as you activate the action?
Yeah, it activates... it happens before resolution, which is weird.
That is really weird.
It has a lot of weird order of operations. So the next card, I think this is the last red card. We have Disloyal Follower. Deal damage to 1 enemy unit equal to 3 times the number of times friendly units have had ascended this battle. So for 2 MP, it does an indeterminate amount of damage, and any unit destroyed by the damage is added to your EX pocket instead of going to the graveyard. So you steal it.
I'd say it's probably pretty good. Actually, it depends on the deck, so you'd have to have prayer set up with Ascended, but it's more so the fact that it turns off graveyard abilities that I'm thinking of.
That is pretty useful. Black has a ton of really busted graveyard abilities.
As well as also being able to steal the unit for yourself for 2. I'm gonna guess that's good.
This card is not good at all. Red just doesn't have the Ascends for it. At the time, there was not enough support for it. This is the buffed version of the card. It used to be 3 MP and was terrible. And when it was buffed, it still saw no play. This card never really found any use at all. It's just too much setup. Next we have your final test of reading comprehension. This is another one that is very difficult to comprehend. I will tell you, Veil means this cannot be targeted. It's untargetable, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! This card cannot attack, and Death Deal 1 damage to a random enemy unit on the field with the highest MP cost. Once this effect activates 9 times, remove this unit from the game.
Is it written that way because you're able to revive it, or?
I have no idea. You are going to guess.
So Veil means nothing can target it. Does that mean you're unable to sacrifice it as well?
You can target it. You actually can target it.
Oh, I see. So just your opponent can't target it.
Yes. I feel like your initial read was very accurate of how a new player would always read this card.
I feel that this card is pretty bad.
Based on how you're reading it.
Yep.
So what do you think this card does, and do you think it's bad?
So, what I think the card does is that it can't attack, cannot be targeted by your opponent's cards.
Yes.
And then...
You're right on that. That part's pretty easy.
When it dies, it'll deal 1 damage to a random enemy unit with the highest MP cost.
That happens.
Once this effect activates 9 or more times, remove this unit from the game. Are you supposed to recur it?
That line is insane. I can't believe they put such a baffling line of text.
Because on top of that, it's also a legendary too, which means...
Yeah, you only get 1, you don't get 9.
Yeah. So I wouldn't... I'm under the impression it's pretty bad.
Okay. So we're going to lock in that answer because that was bait. There's no way you could have read this card properly. This card's great. It activates 9 times as soon as it dies.
I see, so it deals 1 at a time, so it
across
finishes
the whole
pinging
field,
something that's highest and then moves on to the next one.
It kills all the strongest things, and if you have Denjin Renki, which we just mentioned in the last one, it'll do 2 damage 9 times, which is a super board wipe. The only problem is that you have to see it happen first before you ever even consider playing this card yourself, because if you read that, you would never play this card. Sounds terrible when you read it.
I can't believe the TEPPEN fan base couldn't decipher this.
Your score is super close now. You're at 15 to 14. Now we have another card with Veil. This is the shortest card. It is 1 letter long, the letter D. This card cannot be targeted. It is 3 MP, and it's a 2/5 in purple.
Is 2/5 an okay stat line for a 3?
2/5 is the stat line for a 3, basically. I would say it's generally a good stat line for a 3.
And just being untargetable. We did also review a fair amount of non-targeting removal, so I'm under the impression this card's bad. I'm just not sure how common non-targeting removal is.
There's a lot of different kinds of removal at this point, since the game has been out for 3 years.
So I'd assume this card's pretty bad.
I would say this card is niche. This card can counter any deck that exclusively focuses on targeting effects. This was a popular tournament anti-meta deck, which was green-purple Heart Tank, playing just this card and other cards that couldn't be targeted, so that you basically just Mystic Mine out the game, like nothing's going to happen, because they can't activate any effects.
I see.
If you were to play this in a regular deck on ladder, it would be very bad. But if you're a tournament player and you're going against other top players and you know what they're playing, this card can really, really go the distance. Next we have the poster boy of cool, Dante. He's a 6 MP, 5/8 human demon tribe. While on the field, all enemy units gain agility. After dealing damage to the enemy hero, return 1 random unit with agility to the deck.
I see, so if his attack connects directly, he's gonna potentially bounce one of your enemy units.
Yeah, he's potentially removal. It's kind of random removal, but he's taunting them as well. It's a super flavorful card.
It definitely seems like a high-risk, high-reward kind of card, but I wonder if your opponent could just put something in front of it too. Well, no, they couldn't really stall it for that often. Yeah, I'd say that the downside is pretty bad. The stat line's pretty good, but he himself doesn't have any inherent abilities or much like that, so I'd say I'd categorize it as bad.
This card is super bad, which is disappointing because it's really cool. It fits Dante, but the downside of giving your opponent agility is going to lose you the game really, really quickly.
It's because it also gives everything your opponent has agility, so if they cast some or play something else, that's going to come into play with agility.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. It's almost impossible to play around. And his effect could potentially be oppressive if you could give him agility, but he would return himself to the deck if you tried to do that.
He has a chance to return himself.
He can return himself to the deck. This card is super weird and doesn't quite work. So, now at the final card on our little game show, we have the hero of TEPPEN to me, Ace Attorney Heatnix, a 6 MP human, 3/4 with shield, and when placed on the field, gains 2 HP for each enemy unit on the field. And when your hero's life falls to or below 10 for the first time, gain +2 attack. Your hero gains nullified damage 20 seconds, then collect 7 pieces of evidence. There's a lot of effects on this one. He is the grand finale for our show.
He most certainly does have an effect that makes it so that when your hero's life falls below 10 or below for the first
analysis.
card, gain 2 attack. I see that definitely stops you from dying.
He does,
but
yes.
The thing is that it seems like if you cast it when your life's already below 10, you have to take another hit before it actually triggers.
No, that's another case of TEPPEN having poorly written text. I should have actually just explained what it did rather than reading it. If you play him when you're below 10, he will activate right away. You will have 20 seconds of immunity. That's enough time to charge 6 MP off of that while you're invulnerable.
I'm not sure how relevant I'm assuming evidence abilities are pretty relevant for the deck, but
Evidence, we're talking about how good this is overall in the meta. We're not talking about in an evidence deck. We're talking about how good of a card this is. The evidence deck is a bit of a gimmick. There is one good evidence card that you might play alongside Heatnix. 7 MP, Brilliant Turnabout. 4/7 evidence. No, it's 6 MP. So you can play it with Heatnix's invulnerability. It spends 7 evidence to summon 3 units from deck and give them +1/+1. That's what his action does. That's all the context you need to know the full story of Heatnix, right?
I guess that's pretty niche. It definitely gives you a lot of time to recover, but it also costs 6, so you would have to not be in a position where you would be, how do I put it, susceptible to just instantly losing.
I guess that's true.
Oh, I forgot that, yeah, the effect when on play still happens.
Yeah.
I'd probably just say niche on this one. Seems pretty even on both sides. Well, because you're also waiting for your opponent to get you down to certain
That's true,
life.
yeah. If you play him before, with none of those effects, he's not really worth it if he's not getting the 10 HP effect.
And at that point, you'd have to be at a losing position. I'm not sure how many decks would deal burner, but it seems like you'd want to stop from getting to that point, so I'd say niche.
Okay, so with that vote, you have now tied your score negatively. You were wrong. This is one of the greatest cards of all time ever printed in TEPPEN. The way green has changed, this card would still see heavy play just as a card which completely shifts the tide of battle. The combo I mentioned with his action was so powerful that it was considered an alternate win condition. And just as a 5/10 huge unit, he's already like a massive problem. This card does everything. It's one of the most brutal cards to be hit with. It's super frustrating. It just steals games out of nowhere. This is one of the strongest cards the game has ever seen. So with that, you are tied. I did prepare somewhat for this. We have one more card in the event of a tie, which I did not think would happen. So you are going to review one last card.
No, don't worry. If you think about it logically, I only had a 33% chance of being right. So long as I got a third of the points, so long as I got more than 10, I should in theory be in the clear, right?
Yeah, it should have been So this card, there's 3 cards for this card, so you have a 33% chance to get it right again, and you can get 3 points because there's 3 cards. So you have 3 chances to lose.
Woo.
So the card is X Hunters. This is the final card. For 7 MP, X Hunters will place a Cruel Mind Surrogate into an empty board slot. At memory 10, it will also place Darkblade Agile and Wrecking Ball Violin onto the field. And at memory 15, it gives them all +2/+2. So look at those units real quick. Violin has Heavy Pierce, and while on the field, he gives the other 2 Spillover. Agile has Agility, and while on the field, gives the other 2 Combo. Vile gives the other 2 Veil, and on Resonate, he heals the others as well. So it's a 7 MP combo type of card. X-Hunters, what do you think?
It definitely seems insane, and it seems like you just mainly need to get to the 10 memory for it to pay off.
Yeah.
Well enough. So for this card, I'll guess... What color is it in?
This is a purple card.
Purple. I see. Definitely seems like a potential game ender on its own, so I'll guess good.
Yes, this card is... this one was a bit of a gimme. This is one of the most famous cards in TEPPEN, from the most popular format, the most feared card in the game, from the Zero Exodia deck that I mentioned. This was the entire focus of the deck, was just to activate this card, and you would end the game every time that this went off. This was unbeatable. This is the game ender of all time, if there was one, and fittingly, it is our game ender here today. You did end with 1 point ahead. I guess 3 if this was worth 3. How do you feel about being the winner of the first Yu-Gi-Oh player, the React video?
So, while I did beat myself, in the future I could potentially lose to other people, which is terrifying.
Oh, I don't think anybody else... If there's another one, let me know, you guys down below. Let me know if you guys like this, if you want to see another. You can... If you have some cards, because I tried to pick a good balance. I didn't get all of the most famous cards. That's why X-Hunter's here at the end. It was obviously good. If you have some cards that you guys would want to see, a bad Yu-Gi-Oh player, even a good Yu-Gi-Oh player like my friend, who is both on different days, we might do another one of these if you guys are interested in seeing it. Let us know down below if you would be.
I implore you to hit that like and subscribe button. Oh yeah, I forgot audience surrogate things, so...
So yeah,
I would do it.
He would do it! Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you liked the video. Subscribe if you subscribed. Once again, I'm Sconchulus, and I'll see you in the next one.